Today we'll be talking about the Nintendo DS. Alrighty, as y'all saw in the intro, basically we will be doing a video talking about this system, the original Nintendo DS. Now, this thing was originally made in 2004, and it was pretty good at the time. This thing was made basically as a third pillar to their handheld, kind of handheld system variations. It was made after the release of the Game Boy Advance SP, but it was also before the last Game Boy, the Game Boy Micro, which that wasn't a good idea, but the DS was a revolutionary system at the time. The reason why is because it basically had the exact same kind of opening system and size as basically the Game & Watches. The only difference is it was a bit bulkier on the sides and thicker. Also, this one does come with four different buttons, a D-pad, obviously, power, start, select, microphone, the thing to synchronize to let you know if you're charging it, battery life, speakers right there, the touchscreen and regular screen, and here's the back. Something also that people knew that this wasn't just a third pillar was not just the fact that it had its own different games, the DS cartridges, but also it was actually backwards compatible with Game Boy Advance games. And the good thing is that with this one, unlike the DS Lite, which I used to have and did reviews on, it actually went flush into the system instead of like the DS Lite where it's sticking out halfway and it looks awkward. So that's good. This thing does have a battery life of about 10 hours. It plays DS and Game Boy Advance games. And the thing is with this system, it is notoriously known for broken hinges, specifically these two side ones right here. These two side ones basically have terrible luck. If you accidentally drop it or shift it too hard whenever you're playing it, they will basically snap in half. Mine haven't though. I recently got it today, so I don't want to jinx myself. So yeah, the weight of this thing is 0.28 kilograms or 0.61 pounds. Basically, it was pretty heavy, as people would say, because it is notoriously heavier than the Game Boy Advance SPs or Game Boy Advances at the time in the early 2000s. But also, they did somehow, I don't know how they did this, but with something like this that should not have worked on paper, they sold 153.2 million of these and about 50 million on launch day. And it is insane on how they did it. They actually used a soccer game for the demo, but there are notoriously some really other good games for this system. There's the whole Game Boy Advance catalog. We got Mario 64 for the DS, which is actually the game that I have right now. Super Mario 64, or Super Mario DS, is what it says. There's also Animal Crossing Wild World, really good game. There's also Metroid Prime Hunters for the system, and some really other good games for it. And also the Pokemon games, those are really good, but they're really expensive right now. So that's something y'all need to look out for. If y'all find Pokemon DS games or anything at garage sales, y'all need to look for those. But basically, some of the stuff with this, some of the extra features, some good and bad ones. This is the loading screen, as y'all can see. There were some different stuff. There was obviously the calendar and clock up here. Also, it did show your name up here, which I forgot to change it, but there's the DS game, technical difficulties at the moment. Sometimes it does this with the DS. There's a DS game. There's PictoChat. DS download play, where you can connect with other people's DSs that are near you and play the same game. There's also the Game Boy Advance game, but it sometimes don't pop up, so sometimes you gotta blow into the cartridge and the system to make it work. There's this system settings, alarms, and brightness. But the thing is, if you had to change the settings, like say if I wanted to change, like let me just change a few things. Let me just change this to, just change it to this real quick. Change it to that. And change some other stuff. Like just change the name and a few other stuff. Boom. There was no back, so you couldn't go back. So if you went, go back, quit, the system would have to turn off, and you would have to turn the system back on for it to actually go back to the home screen. And even if you wanted to change what game you were playing, you'd have to turn it off and do all that. There's no home button to change it, even to actually change the game. If I were to take out that DS game and put in another one while it was on, just on the home screen, it wouldn't work. You would have to turn off the system and insert another game for it to work, which was pretty weird at the time. Stuff with PictoChat, basically there were different chat rooms, and if you were near some people that had DSs, you could basically write them messages, or you could type in messages. Like if someone was in the same chat as me, I could just type in hello, and we could have basically a chat just like that, which I think is pretty neat, because in case you weren't able to talk to someone or something was going on, you could talk to them like that, which is really good. So it's pretty good for this thing. It's honestly, it's changed a bunch of stuff for the handheld community. It kept on having lights, like backlights and stuff, in the systems, which wasn't really a normal thing in the Game Boy era. Which also, this thing is kind of like a Game Boy Advance on steroids, technically speaking. But yeah, that's it. Speakers are pretty good too. Let me go ahead and turn it up all the way. This is what it sounds like, the speakers all the way up. That's the speakers, which ain't bad either. Normally you can find these things around 40 to 30 bucks at like game exchanges or any kind of retro shop, but also on eBay they normally go from 50 to 110, so look out for that. These may go up in value while they get older for fixed ones, especially ones that don't have broken hinges and are in perfect condition, kind of like this one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But it was originally supposed to be a third pillar for their market. I mean, it sort of was. It was kind of a thing to try to change it up a bit. But if this didn't work, then the reason why they said it was a third pillar. So if this didn't work, then they could just go straight back to making Game Boy Advances. And imagine if this thing didn't work and it was only Game Boys. Just Game Boys. Only, like imagine if we had a Game Boy, like a Game Boy Magical XL or something like that. That would be really weird for the or a Game Boy IXL. That'd be really crazy to think that we could have got that instead. But who knows, honestly. Well, this is just talking about it. Let me know down in the comment section if it'll actually work. If you actually have one of these, and let me know if it's actually working. Let me know if you actually like the DS still. I really enjoy it a lot. especially with you actually being able to play Game Boy Advance and DS games, which is really cool. Because the thing is, every DS variant has different stuff to the Game Boy Advance era. This one, you can play Game Boy Advance games and DS games, and it is flush whenever it's in the system. DS Lite, you can still play DS and Game Boy Advance games, but it sticks out halfway. And DSi, you cannot play Game Boy Advance games, it's only DS games, which is really sad. But that's basically my talk with the DS. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. And let's get on with the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. I'm out. Peace.